Morning. I'm going to start the meeting exactly at 10 a.m. your time. All right. Okay. This is doing good. All right. Okay. Hey, everyone. This is my first time doing this Zoom meeting with all of you. And if you cannot hear me or anything, just let me know. And I'm going to keep on checking this chat window and just holler if you can't hear me. So a quick question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So in your midterm exam, the syllabus is going to be what we did so far. It will be the chapter on demand and supply, the chapter on gross domestic product, and the chapter on economic growth. I will go and do a quick recap on the chapter on demand and supply. So I know I went on and did the recording, but I still want to do a super quick recap here. So this one is my demand curve. Okay, so what I just drew here, trying to write down something here. Okay, this is all right. End up not really letting me do what I want to do here. Okay, see if it really lets me use this text box here. So this one, what I have here, just give me a minute. Let's just fix it because usually I do WebEx meetings and this is the first time doing the Zoom thing here. Let me see if I can open a Word file and it's gonna let me use this Word file here. Okay, so I'm just sharing my screen here. New share. Let's just share this Word file. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, this is much better. This is like really letting me write everything and this is good. All right, so I'm going to start with chapter number 3 here, which is the chapter on demand and supply. The first thing is, this one is my demand curve. And what is a demand curve here? The demand curve is showing me some combination of price and quantity. So what really comes to my mind when I talk about a movement along, the first thing we need to understand about this chapter on demand and supply is a movement along the demand curve. This one, this is what we need to know here, and a shift of the demand curve. So we have a bunch of questions, and a lot of questions are based on this concept of movement of the demand curve and a shift of the demand curve. So question number 1, what causes a movement along the demand curve? All right, so I feel like the best thing to do here is gonna be showing you the slides. After that, I'll go and take a look at and show you the questions here. So let me show you the the slides here instead of, yes, let me show you the slide, because when I was showing you the whiteboard or the MS Word, it was difficult to write. Okay, question before we start again. Don't really want to mess up here. So can you see the PowerPoint file? Okay, awesome. Now we can go and do this in peace. All right, so this one is my demand curve here. The first thing we should know here is we have a movement along the demand curve, and the movement is caused by a change in price. As you can see here, the price keeps going down. If the price keeps going down, the quantity demanded keeps going up. And this one is called the law of demand. So be very careful with these definitions here, because when price is down, I'm going to use the word quantity here. It's going to be quantity demanded that's going up. I'm just going to use the word quantity, which I'll stress over and over again. And then we are going to look at changes in demand. That means we are going to look at what causes a shift of the demand curve. Say D1 is my original demand curve here. It can shift to the right. If the demand curve is shifting to the right, it means people, the consumers or us, we are going to buy more of the good. Then we can also have the demand curve shifting to the left. When the demand curve shifts to the left, we would say we are going to buy less of this good. And the word I'm going to use here is when demand curve shifts to the right. For this one, I will use the word which says demand increases. I will not use the word quantity demanded increases like I did over here in this one. When we are moving along, we say quantity demanded changes. When we are shifting, we say demand increases. And when the demand curve shifts to the left, we are going to say that demand decreases. So you are going to have questions on this concept here. I would recommend looking at the determinants of demand. This is what you need to know. And this is an online exam, and what I'm going to do is share some formulas, a formula sheet which you can download before you write the exam. Okay. So please, please, please take a look at this determinants of demand carefully. Now, the other thing we are going to look at is the supply curve. The demand curve slopes down, and the supply curve, that is going to slope up. And the supply curve is showing me a relation between price and quantity supplied. When price increases, we will say that quantity supplied, this increases. So there is a positive relation between price and quantity supplied. Next one, like we did for the demand curve, we can do the same thing for the supply curve here. say S1 is my initial supply curve. If it shifts to the right, we will say supply increases or sellers will sell more. If it shifts to the left, we say there is a decrease in supply or supply decreases and sellers will sell less. Okay. I'll take a look at the determinants of supply. I'm just being a little bit fast here because we have a lot of ground to cover. I think we should meet more regularly than this. All right, take a look at this one here. We bring the demand curve and the supply curve together. Whenever they meet, say this is my demand curve here, this one's my supply curve. Wherever they meet, this point is called some equilibrium point. We have an equilibrium price, we have an equilibrium quantity. As for example, this one, $3 is the equilibrium price, 7,000 is the equilibrium quantity. Okay, so if we are below this equilibrium point here, say when price is $2 or $1, we will have a shortage. Say for example, if we are here somewhere, quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied. And this one below $3 or below the equilibrium price, we will have a shortage, and above the equilibrium price, quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded, and anything above $3, we will have a surplus. I kind of went over these concepts already in the YouTube link. So basically, I'm not going to go over this for a lot. I just want to let you know here what happens when either the demand increases or either the supply increases. So take a look at this connection here. When demand increases, that means the demand curve is shifting to the right. I would have the price increase and quantity increase at the same time. When we have the demand decreasing, I would have the price decrease and quantity decrease. It's like demand, price, and quantity are moving in the same direction all the time. Now, what happens when supply increases or supply decreases? When supply increases, quantity increases. Supply decreases, quantity decreases. But the thing to note here is the supply curve and the price moves in opposite directions. If supply increases, price goes down. Supply decreases, price goes up. Okay. Right, I think we know the concept of price ceiling and price floor. What I'd really like to do right now is go and show you a bunch of questions. Okay, I'm gonna do the demand and supply practice questions. So this is gonna reinforce our understanding on the chapter. All right, so I just went on and shared all of this So let's just write down here. Cool. All right. So right now we are looking at this Word file. I have some practice questions on demand and supply. And if you go to each chapter, or I would say if you go to week 1, you would see this file. If you go to week 2, you would see the practice questions on gross domestic product. If you go to week 3, you would see the practice questions on economic growth. That's the next chapter. All right, these are like the 3 chapters we do for our exam. First question, the downward slope of the demand curve illustrates the pattern that as what's going on here? What's the answer to this question here? This is talking about a movement along the demand curve. Okay, so there's going to be 2 things here. So when price increases, quantity demanded decreases. Like if we are along the demand curve, if my price is $3, the quantity demanded is 4 units. Say the price is going up from $3 to $4. Quantity demanded decreases from 4 to 2 units. Okay, this is what we mean by the downward slope of the demand curve. And definitely we have price on the vertical axis, quantity on the horizontal axis. So this is the answer to this question. Price increases, quantity demanded decreases. Question number 2, the nature of demand, that as price of the good increases. That means what? If you are a buyer here, what would you do? If I'm a buyer, if the price is going up, I will buy less of the good. So this is the answer to question number 2. Right. Zoom is very sensitive. It's not really allowing my Microsoft Paint to work to its fullest extent. Okay. I'll take a look at question number 3 here. The answer to this will be law of demand. Higher price means lower quantity. Now, take a look at question number 4. My initial demand curve is this one, D1. It says a shift to D2. That means the demand curve is shifting to the right. Okay. What's going to be the answer here? It's going to be the increase in demand. And the answer here is not going to be the increase in quantity demanded. The reason for this is whenever the demand curve shifts to the right, we say there is an increase in demand, not an increase in quantity demanded. I hope you would be all good in the exam. I don't hope. I really know you do good in the exams. Okay. Now take a look at question number 5. If I'm too fast, just slow me. And if I'm too slow, just tell me to go faster. All right, looking at question number 5 here.
Just a little bit?
We are working on this demand curve, which is D0. The question they're asking here is, what happens if we move from point A to point B on the demand curve? Say point A is my initial point, and we are gonna go to point B, move to point B here. All right, say at point A, my quantity is 10, price is 10. Okay, sure. I will slow down. Okay. Yes, please talk to me. That way I understand students are there. Right, so we are on this demand curve. The vertical axis, we measure price. Horizontal axis, we are going to measure, no problem, quantity. That means $10 is my price, 10 units is the quantity. If I go from point A to point B, as this question is asking me to do, what goes on? The quantity demanded goes down from 10 units to 8 units. Price increases from $10 to $11. So my answer to this problem is there is a decrease in quantity demanded. And let's just do this thing here. The answer is not gonna be D. I want you to notice something here. I want you to notice that if we are shifting the demand curve, like if we are shifting the demand curve from D1 to D2, I am not using the word quantity. I just said I have an increase in demand. If I go from D1 to D0 instead, I would say there is a decrease in demand. So any kind of shift here, I can only say use the words increase and decrease. This is what I'm going to use. And any kind of movement, that means I'm on the original demand curve here. Any kind of movement, I'm going to use the word quantity here. That means if I'm moving from A to B here, my quantity is going down. So I say there is a decrease in quantity demanded. Okay. All right. Question 6. Law of supply. I feel comfortable drawing the graphs when I am explaining this. Law of supply, there is a direct relation between price and quantity supplied. This one is the supply curve. When the price increases, these are just random numbers, don't worry about the numbers here. Quantity supplied increases because who is on the supply curve? We have sellers on the supply curve, and the sellers, their motive is to maximize profit. So they want to sell more when price increases. Okay. Now take a look at question number 7 here. It says if new manufacturers enter the computer industry, what happens? All right, here we are looking at the sellers. I want to look at this from the seller's point of view. This one is my initial supply curve here. Don't forget the price and quantity. More sellers are entering the market. The supply curve will shift to the right. Okay. Now take a look at question number 8 here. Oh, okay, if a farm will supply a higher quantity and the supply curve will shift to the right. So they're asking us, like, this is like an effect. This is given to me here. And they're asking us, what is the cause? That's the question. What would make the supply curve to shift to the right? Or what would make the sellers to sell more? Is gonna be this one. Cost of production going down. Let me give you an example here. Say you have your own bakery and you want to produce and sell cakes. So cakes, this is the final product. Okay. And what goes in the production of cakes? You need flour, you need sugar, you need icing, you need milk. These are the ingredients which goes in the production of cakes. So if the cost of flour goes down, cost of sugar goes down, cost of icing goes down, then it becomes cheaper for you to produce and sell, and you are going to sell more cakes. That's the thing here. That's the concept. If the cost of production is going down, you as a seller will sell more of the good. Okay. Next one is severe freeze has once again damaged the Florida orange crop. The impact on the market for orange is going to do what? Here we are again looking at it from the seller's point of view. So they are going to sell less oranges. If they sell less oranges, the supply curve will shift to the left. Okay. Next one, which of the following would reduce the supply of microcomputers? That means again I'm looking at it from the seller's point of view, and I'm trying to see why would the sellers want to sell less of something. Okay, my answer to this question is going to be B, which says the wages are going up. That means when the wages of workers goes up, this means the cost of production just went up. So this means the cost of production increased. If the cost of production increases, sellers are going to sell less of the product. Okay. Question 11. beer and pizza are complements to one another. If the price of pizza goes down, what happens to beer? All right, let's look at this from this is like the buyer's point of view. We are looking at the demand curve again. So we have the demand for pizza. Okay, this is the demand curve for pizza, and it says the price of pizza is going down. Say the price of pizza is $10 and you are going to buy 5 boxes of pizza in a week. Now, let's say the price, okay, I mean, their price of pizza went down from $10 to $8. Instead of buying 5 boxes of pizza, you are going to buy 6 boxes of pizza. So I would say quantity demanded for pizza went up. But what happens to the demand for beer? So let's look at the demand curve for this is kind of the demand curve for beer, the initial demand curve. We want to have pizza and beer together. If you are eating more pizza here, you are also gonna drink more beer. So this is kind of what happens when the price of the complement good goes down. So my answer will be the demand for beer will go up. I did not say quantity demanded for beer because nothing happened along the demand curve for beer. I just went in and shifted the demand curve for beer to the right. Okay. All right, take a look at question number 12 here. Okay, we can do 3 things. This is my initial supply curve and let's just use a different marker. I'm at this point A. Now the question is telling me you move from point A, excuse me, to point E. Excuse me. So this is the answer to this question. There is a decrease in supply. Oh, all right. So the rest 13 and 14 really depends on this one here. Now, question number 13 is telling me we are moving from A to D. If we move from A to D here versus if we move from A to E. So this one is called a decrease in supply and A to D is called an increase in supply. Something else to note here, let's just use this marker. Then the question is asking what happens if we move from point A to point B. That means we are on this initial supply curve S1. If we go to point A to point B here, we say there is an increase in I'm going to use the word quantity here. Any kind of movement is associated with the word quantity. I will say there is an increase in quantity supplied. Instead, if you move from A to C, you say there is a decrease in quantity supplied. I hope this makes sense. We should do some regular sessions so that it becomes easier for students to understand. All right, so we have two more questions here before we move on to the questions on the chapter on gross domestic product. Take a look at question number 15. What is my equilibrium price and quantity combination here? This one, price is equal to $11. Quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied, which is 400 units. The question is asking me, okay, the question here is asking me, the college introduces a minimum wage of $11.50 an hour. That means we have kind of a price floor here. That means let's just draw this thing here. Okay, I want to make this thing a little bit bigger. Okay, this is good. This is the demand here. This is the supply. The price is $11. Quantity demanded and supply is equal to 400. Everyone is happy. Now, the college imposes a minimum wage of $11.50. And this is called a price floor. Imagine the floor of the place you live, home or apartment. So I'm thinking about the floor of my apartment. I can't really go below the floor, but I can come above the floor. You can't really go below the floor price. Now at 1150, the quantity supplied is 450. Quantity demanded is 300. That means at $11.50, quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded by how much? By 450 minus 300, which is equal to 150. That means there is an unemployment in this campus. 150 students could not find a campus job because the wages are too high. And the wages are too high, the employers do not want to hire so many workers. Okay. Take a look at the last question on the chapter on demand and supply. The equilibrium price is 6. Equilibrium quantity demanded and quantity supplied is when the demand curve is intersecting the supply curve. This is equal to 99. Now, what's going on here is there is a price ceiling. And ceiling means this is the top. That means you can't really go above the ceiling. Like anything above is not allowed, but you can really come below the ceiling. So this is a ceiling price here. What happens when a price ceiling is imposed? The price ceiling is hitting the demand curve at 100. That means the quantity demanded is 100. Hitting the supply curve at 97.5, and because the quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied, there is a shortage which is equal to 100 minus 97.5, which is equal to 2.5. This is the answer to this question. Okay. All right, these are all the questions on demand and supply. Instead of doing the chapter here, what I'm going to do here is just take a look at the questions so that we can finish so that we can finish in time. Okay, now I'm going to look at start sharing another document here. Okay, I'm going to share, yes, this new share here. I'm going to share the screen of the next chapter, which is the chapter on gross domestic product. And I believe, I don't know if Zoom is going to let us, okay, if Zoom is going to let us continue after the time is over. So I just want to go and take a look at the questions really quickly. Really, I want to go over the chapters. That's what I would really love to do. All right, for this chapter, because I already sent you the recorded lectures, I'm just go over the questions for this chapter. Okay, someone has asking me something. Oh yeah, definitely. So so if you go to week 1, you would find the demand and supply questions that we just went over. If you go to week 2, you would find this set of questions, the GDP practice questions that we'll go over. If you go to week 3, you would find the economic growth questions. So yes, I just did it last night. I thought of like putting the questions for each chapter in, like for each week's chapter in each week's folder. Yes, you would see that's week 3, all the questions. Sure. All right, what is GDP here? GDP, this one stands for gross domestic product. And this GDP means the total production in an economy. And this also means the total income in an economy. Also, the total production is equal to the total income. What I really like to do here is the answer choices are already highlighted here. I want to look at 1 or 2 questions. All right, take a look at question number 13. There is a difference between real and nominal gross domestic product, which I will do in questions 15 and 16. Now, let me do something here. Let me write down the formula. There is a formula for price index, which tells me price index is equal to the nominal gross, not real, letting me write here. Let's just try it. I'm just going to write it on the left so that I have, oh boy, so that I have enough space. This price index, this is defined as nominal GDP over the real GDP whole thing multiplied by 100. Okay, in this question, the price index is given to me as 112. The nominal GDP is what they're asking us to find, and the real GDP is equal to 3668 billion. This is what they have given us. This is what the question is asking. All right, so we can do something here. What we are going to do here is do some kind of cross multiplication. So I can write down, like make this thing bigger. I can write down the price index times real GDP over 100. This, okay, just trying to move this. This whole thing is equal to nominal GDP. Don't really worry about the formulas because you can use the formula sheet, but I would still recommend you to practice these problems. All right, my price index is 112. Real GDP is 3668 over 100. If I do the math, use our calculators, we can find the nominal GDP, and the answer is $4108 billion. Okay. Already, so these are just plugging in the formulas and doing the problem. You'd see the formula in your PowerPoint and also the YouTube link. Alrighty, question 14. We are doing good on time. Whenever the real and nominal intersect each other, what happens? That means the nominal GDP is equal to the real GDP. In economics, whenever two lines are intersecting, we say those two are equal. And these two are going to be equal when the year is the base year. I'm going to explain this in the next problem. So the year 2000 is the base year of the GDP price index. All right. What's the difference between the nominal gross domestic product and the real gross domestic product? The real gross domestic product you calculate by multiplying the base year price, with that you multiply the current year quantity, and the nominal GDP, you take the current year price, you multiply that by the current year quantity. Okay, this is the difference between these two. However, if the year is the base year, okay, if we are looking at the base year and the this is also called the starting year. For the starting year or the base year, the real GDP will be equal to the nominal GDP. All right, coming to this question here, any year can be the base year. It says year 2 is the base year. So what is the real GDP in year 5? Take a look at the real GDP formula. Real GDP is equal to base year price times current year quantity. So it's gonna be year 2 price multiplying it by year 5 quantity. So my year 2 price is equal to $3. Year 5 quantity is 20. So my answer will be equal to 60. This is how you do the real GDP calculation. All right, question number, let's see here. Question number 16. Question number 16 is telling me if year 2 is the base year, what's the percentage increase, interesting, in real GDP from year 2 to year 4? So I have to do two things here. I'm going to calculate the real GDP in year 2 and then going to calculate the real GDP in year 4. So year 2 is my base year here. So the way I calculate the real GDP in year 2 is equal to $3 times 10, because I'm also taking year 2 quantity. This is equal to 30. Now the real GDP in year 4, I'm gonna again use the year 2 price because I'm gonna use the base year price here. No matter which year I'm calculating, I'm always gonna use the base year price. In our example, the base year price is $3. And the year 4 quantity is equal to 18. So I can write this as equal to 18. This one is equal to 54. So I hope my calculation is right. Now, yes, this is right here. But the question is asking us something else, is asking us, what's the percentage increase? So there is a formula to find out the percentage increase, and this is what we are going to do a lot in the chapter on economic growth here. The percentage increase is going to be the new value minus the old value over the old value multiply times 100. Percentage increase or percentage decrease, whenever you hear the word percentage, you multiply by 100. I know it's a lot. So here, if I fill up the blanks here, the new year is 54. From that, I'm subtracting 30, dividing by 30, multiplying the whole thing times 100. I kind of feel like they're 30 and 54. Kind of feel like I made a mistake here for some reason. 14 over. All right. No, I think I'm fine. So on the top, we have 54 minus 30. So we have 24 over 30 times 100. So if we do the calculation here, 24, all right, 24 over 30 times 100, yes. So my answer is 80%. I'll give you the recording of this. Yes. I'm gonna give you the recording here. I think yes. This thing is recorded. All right, the last question before we go to our last chapter. So here in this one, they are asking what is the nominal GDP in year 4? They still have year 2 as the base year, but because we are calculating the nominal GDP, I do not really need this information. So for year 4, the nominal GDP is equal to year 4 price times the year 4 quantity. So this is equal to 90. Okay. There you go. And please use the homeworks to practice for your midterm 1 exam. You have till Sunday, you have a lot of time. You don't really need to hurry up and do this exam. Okay. All right, let me share something else right now. I'm going to share the questions of the last chapter. Before we get going. All right, I just tried to download these questions, but for some reason it's not really letting me download these questions here. Oh, I'm just being silly. See if it, yes, it really let me download the questions, and that's great. So I'm in the last chapter here, and there are 12 questions, and after I'm done, I'll let you all go. All right, economic growth is best explained. Let's see. Hang in there. Okay. I was trying to share this. Oh, give me a minute here. Let me try and share this download thing here. Share this PDF file, because if I do not share this PDF file, it becomes difficult to write down. Okay. Now I'm sharing the right file. Okay, more question, no problem. Okay, so these are the questions, and Let's try figure these questions out together. Economic growth is best explained by this one, by either real GDP or real GDP per capita. Question, what is real GDP per capita? This is defined as real GDP over population. Okay. Real GDP per capita is found by this one, dividing real GDP by population. Question 3, which of the following best measures the improvement in the standard of living in a nation? This is growth rate of real GDP per capita. Okay. All right, so this is something I think was in your homework questions. It says between years 1 and 2, real GDP grew up by how much percent in the economy of Alta? So here I have two economies. One is Alta and the other is Zorn. This is year 1, real GDP, and the population is given to me here. This is going to be 2000. So what I need here, first thing is, what is the real GDP per capita? One is year 1. The next one I have is year 2. I'm going to circle the numbers I will use here. So for year 1, it is 2000 over 200. So this one is equal to 10. Year 2 is going to be 2100 over 202. So 2100 over 202. This one is close to 10 point. All right, did I make a mistake here in any of the calculations? 2100 over, no, this is close to 10.39. Now we are asked to find, we have the word percentage here. So basically we are asked to find the growth rate of real GDP per capita. The way we do this is the new value, which is, I'm just going to write down the formula in a bit. So what I'm doing here is taking year 2's value, from that I'm subtracting the year 1's value, dividing it by the value of year 1, multiplying the whole thing by 100. So my answer is equal to 3.96%. So this one is the answer to this question, which is 4%. Definitely our brains are fried. Oh, okay. So, oh boy. So basically what I did was I solved it for question number 5. Question number 5 is asking us for real GDP per capita. Okay, this is the solution to question number 5 because I think I messed up here. Question number 5 is asking for real GDP per capita. Oh, this question is really just asking me for real GDP. This makes it super easy then. It will be 2100 over 2000. From that is subtract 2000 over 2000 times 100. So whenever you have this growth rate questions, you are gonna be using the formula here, new minus old over old times 100. This one is 5%. Sorry about that. I solved question number 5 before question number 4. Okay. All right, take a look at question number 6. We have something called rule of 70. And this question is based on rule of 70. And rule of 70 means how many years something will double in value. So the formula for rule of 70 is equal to 70 over the percentage growth rate. This is the formula I'm going to use for rule of 70, and 70 is just a rule of thumb. They're telling me a nation's GDP is growing by 5%, and its GDP will double in approximately how many years? So it's just gonna be 70 over 5. That is equal to 14 years. If the question instead of 5, if it asked me if the GDP was growing at 10%, what's gonna be your answer here? I would say it's just 70 over 10, that's 7 years. This is rule of 70. It might seem something new, but is as simple as possible. Okay. All right. Question number 7. Improvement. Use the accompanying list to answer which of the following question. The question is asking you what leads to economic growth. This is going to be this one, this one, this one, and this one. All right, there is something called a production possibility curve in your chapter here, which I'm going to show right now. So this is a production possibility curve, and this shows us how much can be produced in the economy. Say initially, my production possibility curve is A and B. So I have capital goods on the vertical axis. I have consumer goods on the horizontal axis. Say the economy can produce maximum 100 capital goods or maximum 100 consumer goods. Economic growth happens if this production possibility frontier shifts to the right and the economy can produce more of both goods. So that really answers question number 8 here. Economic growth can be portrayed as an outward shift of the production possibility curve. Okay, an increase in labor productivity would shift the production possibility curve from AB to CD. Okay. Now take a look at question number 10 here. We have a formula for question number 10. It says the real GDP is 4,000, labor productivity is 8, and I need to find out what are the labor hours. Labor hours is defined as the real GDP over the labor productivity. So this one is 4,000 over 8. That means 500. This one's pretty much straightforward, this question. Okay. This one is this. Like production capacity or economic growth occurs when the production possibility frontier shifts to the right. Question 12, the last question. Which of the following is the largest contributor to the growth of labor? It's going to be technological advances. So that is all for now. And if you have any questions, if you want to meet one-to-one, I really don't have a